So if you want to become a better technical SEO, if you want to do better technical SEO audits, this is the video you have to watch. So here today, I'm going to show you technical optimization tools, a bunch of those tools that will help you do way better, way more in-depth technical SEO audits, technical SEO analysis, or simply like making sure you check all the technical issues on a site, whether the site has those issues and stuff like that. So the first tool is, of course, Google Search Console. You should definitely be using that tool every day. Every time you start any technical SEO analysis, you have to look into GSC and see what's going on there, because GSC is your way of looking at the site through the eyes of Google. Because in GSC, you see basically all the things, all the issues that Google sees and wants you to pay attention to. There is a bunch of reports that I recommend you always look at, which is of course the performance report, which simply lets you see the clicks your site is getting, any like trends. So you have to be checking that to see if, for example, if your traffic is stable. If traffic is not stable, you see a drop, then you have to analyze it deeper, because maybe there is some technical issue that caused that traffic to drop. So performance report, of course, something to check. Then we have index report, which is like more of a technical report. Here you want to simply, now Google Search Console has been updated, so now you just need to you just have not indexed and indexed buckets. And this is again for you to check how many pages are indexed, how many pages are not indexed, and whether the pages that are not indexed are actually the pages that shouldn't be indexed. So you definitely need to go through those reports here and check what pages are not indexed and whether this is like your intention. So I can see that, okay, these pages are not indexed, and it says page with a redirect. So, okay, I know that I implemented redirects on those URLs, so that's okay. But you need to check that to make sure this is like really the intention behind this status, that this is done on purpose, that this is not like an issue that popped up and you failed to see. So index report, all about indexing. Of course, like as a basic, you should also go to sitemaps, see whether Google has problems crawling sitemaps. In the case of huge sites, you definitely want to submit the sitemap. Huge sites, I mean more than, let's say, 1,000, 10,000 URLs, or if the site is like changing rapidly, you probably want to have a sitemap. In the case of smaller sites, you can like simply omit that step, but it is still a good practice to have the sitemap and to check in Google whether Google has actually like see the sitemap, crawl it correctly. Experience, again, this is a technical factor, whether your site meets core vitals, whether your site provides good page experience, whether it's mobile friendly, whether it has HTTPS, and there are no issues with that. So definitely those reports are something you have to be paying attention to. Core Web Vitals, the same. Mobile usability. So now we have this mobile first indexing for most pages, for most sites. So you need to check, is the site mobile friendly in the eyes of Google? So experience bucket. Again, if you have different, if you offer like a shop, you may also want to be checking those shopping bucket. Enhancements is all about schema, so also something to check whether, for example, breadcrumb schema is valid. If it's not valid, then you know that's something to be fixed. And the same, there's also this report, security manual actions. Has the site got a manual action or some security issues? You definitely want to be checking that as well. And finally, I also recommend going to Google crawl stats report, which is simply like the way of looking at how Google is crawling your site. Of course, this is not like a full in-depth crawl log and file log analysis, but this is something you also want to check. What responses is Google coming across? Okay, I can see there are a lot of 404s. What is it? So you click there and you see, okay, so this is like something about the theme. Probably not a huge thing, but of course it has to be like analyzed in more depth. What files? JSON, HTML, CSS. So look for things that are out of like normal to be able to use GSC to spot the things that you can optimize for, because GSC is like a technical tool. Okay, so GSC is the first tool. The second set of tools are desktop-based crawlers. Here I can recommend. Everyone probably knows that Google. Here I can recommend Screaming Frog SEO Spider. This is the tool probably everyone knows, and this is definitely the tool you want to be checking. You want to use that tool to see like the entire structure of your site, whether there are some 404 pages, whether there are some other problems, whether there are, for example, redirects or redirect chains. Again, a ton of technical things this tool is checking. You can recently Screaming Frog has been updated. You have this issues tab, which also allows you to review the issues that Screaming Frog thinks your site has. But of course, you need to treat it with a pinch of salt, because those issues are not always like real issue. You need to put them in the context of the site and basically your knowledge about the site. So Screaming Frog, definitely. I also recommend, when it comes to Screaming Frog, executing JavaScript. You can set that in configuration spider, in advanced, in rendering JavaScript. Then Screaming Frog will help you like check for example, JavaScript-based links, whether the content is the same with JavaScript executed and in the source code. And these are, again, technical optimizations, technical things you want to be checking. Another desktop-based crawler, which I strongly recommend you check, is Sidebulb, which is like this tool is more has like very detailed explanations of issues, and if you are newer to SEO, I strongly recommend starting with Sidebulb, because it has like a huge explanation of every issue. There is a link to the specific article they have about that issue, when this can be an issue, what issue it is. So for learning, definitely I recommend Sidebulb. Okay, so let me quickly start the crawl, and this is like more or less how Sidebulb looks. So these two are desktop-based crawlers. Then, of course, we also have cloud-based crawlers. Like, let me now get back to where I was and show you a cloud-based crawler. So, for example, if you use Ahrefs, Ahrefs also has this site audit functionality, which is basically their own cloud-based crawler. So you can also use them. They also show you different issues, different priorities, assign different priorities. So if you want to, like, again, a quick check, it is a good practice to crawl your site with this cloud-based crawler every week. I think it's done by default in Ahrefs. So whenever something like huge happens, like your site is returning 404s all over the place, then Ahrefs will let you know about that. So Ahrefs, SEMrush, there's also Jet Octopus, which is a great cloud-based crawler. So enough about crawlers. Let me next show you a bunch of Chrome extensions which you can use. Of course, I have a lot of Chrome extensions installed. I don't necessarily use all of them, but I think I've even like created a list of all Chrome extensions for SEO, and I think I was able to list like 80, but actually you have to just choose the bunch that actually help you with your work. So the one I recommend using is link redirect trace, which simply shows you like the status code of a given page. If the page is redirected, you will see where it is redirected, what type of redirection it is, which is like great information for you as an SEO. You can also like quickly check rel canonical, whether the site is indexable, page is indexable, not indexable. So link redirect trace. There is also detailed SEO. I very much like this Chrome extension. So it lets you like see in a nutshell all the most important information about the page, like title, description, canonical, structure of headings, images, schema, like all those things that you always as an SEO want to be checking. Another tool which I strongly recommend you check is, of course, Chrome Web Developer Tool. This is a more advanced tool, but it lets you like check a ton of different things. For example, you can disable the images. You can disable JavaScript and see how the page works, performs with JavaScript blocked, which is like again a basic thing you want to do when you are auditing a site. Because with that functionality you can, for example, check, okay, this content is edited with JavaScript, so now I know that I have to check that in more depth to see whether Google is able to index and see that JavaScript edit content. So Chrome Web Developer is like a essential tool. As you can see, you can disable JavaScript. Here you have images, information. For example, here you have something like view document outline. You click there. So for example, here you have like view document outline, and you can see the outline of all headings, which is again great and very useful thing. There are really a lot of options here. I strongly recommend you check them all. When it comes to images, display alt attributes. So this one is also like a useful one. You can quickly see if there are alt attributes on a given page. So that another tool, which is like, let me refresh that. There is this tool called nofollow, which is like a very simple tool. Nofollow. This is like a very simple Chrome extension, nofollow, which simply lets you see. Of course, you can check that information with crawling or with inspecting an element. But what that tool does is simply shows you, like with the dotted line, red line, shows you what links are now followed. And this is sometimes when you're doing a manual review of the site, this is very useful to do. So I strongly recommend that Chrome extension as well. And of course, there is like built-in into Chrome Google Lighthouse, which is something you probably also need to be using because it shows you like accessibility. Of course, it runs like a general overview of the performance of your site, gives you like those different types of information. So this is again something you want to be checking, you want to be using. And then finally, we have Google PageSpeed Insights, which is based. Some of those reports are based on Google Lighthouse, but Google PageSpeed Insights will also show you, like for example, whether the Core Web Vitals assessment is passed for a given page. So of course you can check that information also in Google Search Console. But if you are like auditing a site, you want to like see a quick overview of the problems, potential things to things to fix to improve speed and potentially improve core web vitals, this is definitely the tool to go because it really gives you very precise information. Like here I can see reduce CSS, reduce JavaScript. Like this is very clear what I need to be doing. And of course, core vitals assessment, I can see in what areas I'm failing. So as you can see, this is like CLS. CLS is failing here. So these are the tools you definitely want to use if you are going to do any technical SEO optimization. And here is my homework for you. So I strongly recommend you go through each of those tools I enlisted and simply play with them. See what they show you. Try to understand what they show you. Try to put that information into the context of your site. Is it like relevant for your site, or isn't like not relevant at all? It doesn't make sense. The tool made a mistake, or the tool wasn't like knowing what you knew about that specific like issue, whatever. So play with all those tools, try different Chrome extensions, and simply learn. If you want to like deepen your knowledge about those issues, I strongly recommend using Sidebulb and checking what Sidebulb is showing you, what descriptions about a specific issue Sidebulb has. And if you have time, going through like reading the entire articles about specific issues. This is like the best learning experience, learning lessons about technical SEO you can have. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and good luck with your technical SEO.